In the words of Kil Raj Regme, who is a politician in Nepal, he once said, federalism should be able to maintain unity among all. But this does not mean that we should boycott regional voices and the voices of ethnic groups. Okay, so let's see how that could relate to what we'll be discussing today. Very warm greetings and welcome to Athena Voices. We're reaching you live from Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, brought to you by Clear Path Media. My name is Annabelle Oji, and it is a very beautiful Tuesday evening. Now let's go straight to our topic for today. Ecowas has come under fire in recent years for its perceived inaction, political bias, and disconnect from the people. From military coups to trade disputes and member state withdrawals, the bloc is at a crossroad like every other institution, according to its president, Omar Torre. With new leadership now in place, what next for regional unity and influence? Can the new leadership rebuild trust and reshape the future of integration? Or is ECOWAS too fractured to function? Today, we ask the tough questions, expert voices, unfiltered analysis, because this is Athena Voices and you are live. Welcome again. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll kickstart this conversation.
Introducing Athena's suite of publications by the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, a not-for-profit, non-partisan think tank operating at the junction of theory and practice. Athena Notes brings you timely from top academics and journalists. Athena Perspectives keeps you connected with the latest trends and developments in Nigeria and the West African sub-region. Policy Pulse delivers monthly analysis of policy trends with Athena Governance Insights. Dive deep into national challenges and policy solutions through data-driven research. Athena Third Tier spotlights local governance at the grassroots level and offering solutions to improve outcomes at the grassroots level. Subscribe to Athena Center for Policy and Leadership today.
If you just joined us, this is Athena Voices. We're reaching you live from Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, and we are talking about ECOWAS at Crossroads, because it is a defining moment for the regional integration in West Africa. As ECOWAS enters a new leadership cycle amid political instability, economic pressure, and growing public distrust, the big question remains, can this regional bloc reinvent itself? Now, joining us for an exclusive conversation is a renowned economist and regional policy advisor, Professor Ken Ife, who is Chief Economic Strategist at ECOWAS Commission. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And we also have Habib Gajul, who is a political economist and BDC expert. Welcome, Habib.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. All right, gentlemen, let's go straight to our conversation for today. But before we learn, let me come to you, Habib Gajul. Two questions, and I'd like you to take them in one breath. Now, how exactly would you rate, now that you have new leadership in place at the commission, how would you rate President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's tenure as the chairman of the authority of the head of state and government, where he started in July 2023 and then it was later renewed in 2024? How would you assess all that happened during his tenure, the outgoing leadership, which, like most people argue, it was actually marked by significant regional turbulence, but also you also saw that efforts to preserve democratic governance was put in place within the bloc. And also, that's one question. Then the second question is, looking back at the institution ever since it was established by Nigeria's head of state, that's Yakubu Gowon. Now, 50 years later, how would you say, or how much do you think that the regional bloc has fared in the last 50 years?
Well, so far so good. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as a chairman of the ECOWAS, who presided over for 2 years, that's 2 terms. He has done well in some certain areas, and he failed in some certain areas, because ECOWAS was established based on trade, security, generally regional integration. But unlike the former leaders of the ECOWAS, who presided over, maintained a cordial relationship based on trade and integration, uh, uh, was has done very well, better than President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in some certain areas.
What areas are
Now,
you looking at
I'm
exactly?
I'm looking at uh, in a democratic way of doing things, it has to follow a heavy and matured diplomacy. When some member states start overturning their democratic government into military government, Tinubu, as a Democrat, he must show qualities and leadership. You understand? In bringing them back to the fold. You understand? Not by sanctioning and later antagonizing those countries, and even threat to suspend them, and threat of invasion, like invading Niger. That was ill advised. Whoever advised Tinubu for that, I think, is an ill advice, and that is a setback to ECOWAS. You understand? Because in a diplomatic way of doing things, you have to negotiate, you have to talk, you have to open your doors where member countries can now discuss and see a way forward of bringing back those countries into a democratic system. Like example, let me give an example. Like what happened in Guinea, there was a coup or overtake of a civilian government, but through mediation and negotiation, Guinea now is a democratic country. You understand? Not governed by the military, but use of force to Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali contradict the regional integration and regional peace and threat of security. If you take Mali, who are very close to Sahel, where is a dominant place of all these terrorist organizations. You understand? They always came from Sahel and attack us. It is something else. And during those coups, we have seen how terrorist organizations start springing up, like Lakurawas, and some you cannot even know their names until the security agencies will tell you these are, you understand. And the security situation has gone worse and worse and worse due to there is no balance in that aspect. And to the other turn, Mali got its own share through Algeria and so on. So I think the new leadership will now bring back those who left the ECOWAS.
Okay, so before we talk about the new leadership, we'll go to Professor Ken, but then I need you to return back 50 years later. How is the regional bloc faring? Are they, if you have to put it in a scale, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, what would you give? How far so far?
Yeah, it's been well when it was established, and a lot of successes has been achieved right from the day of the years of Yakubu Gawan, you understand, down to the I think even to President Muhammadu Buhari, we have seen how Nigeria has intervened peacefully in other countries that has political and economic crisis. Nigeria helped those countries like Liberia, like Mali, like Mali, Sierra Leone, and so on and so forth. You understand?
Right.
Where wars has escalate, bad leadership or military intervention escalate to civil war, that Nigeria intervene and return peace and conduct election and have a new leadership. Recently, when the president of Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, refused to hand over Buhari as a chairman of Ecowas, traveled all the way to Gambia, you understand, and met with Yahya Jammeh and negotiated with him and brought him back to Nigeria. We have seen how Johnson was brought from Liberia, brought to Nigeria, and Chastelo was also brought to Nigeria, though Obasanjo has panicked in that aspect, you understand, that led to the arrest of Charles Taylor,
okay.
You understand, but Fodi Sanko was brought, you know, and when you talk of economic integration, we have seen how Same Border road up to, I think, Abidjan, you understand, Ivory Coast, was expanded, and the trade is smoothly, goods are moving without any hindrances, because I traveled to most of some of these ECOWAS countries, some by road following border to border, some by air. The ECOWAS passport is excellent in that aspect.
That's actually great to know.
Good achievement to mention. The only setback we have is all these military interventions.
Okay, now you talked about how former President Buhari was able to broker peace, and then all of this that has happened before that. We'll go back to it. Now, Prof, let me come to you. What signal does this new ECOWAS leadership under the chairmanship of the president of Sierra Leone, that's Julius Maada Bio, what does he send to the region at this moment of instability, just like he talked about, and transition? Even though I know that when President Julius was sworn in, he outlined 4 priorities areas where he talked about constitutional restoration, regional security enhancement, economic integration, and institutional credibility. But what are the signals that this new ECOWAS leadership would actually bring forth during his tenure?
He hasn't actually differed from those. It's just that, history is such that we have to recognize the exigencies of the moment. Now, I don't look at Bola Tinubu as Nigerian president in the way he acted. He is ECOWAS president. He was chairman of ECOWAS. He wasn't doing anything because he's a Nigerian president.
Okay.
The instruction that he was getting is from ECOWAS. So it's ECOWAS that tells him what to do, and then he does it. It's just a coincidence that Niger had 7,000 kilometer boundary with Nigeria, and there are so many inseparable families, but it is instructions given to him by ECOWAS that he was trying to carry out. And he even went beyond their instruction to try to smoothen the path and relationship with France, because France was on the receiving end. And if you look at the history of France and Guinea-Bissau, when they broke away and they hammered them, destroyed a lot of the infrastructure, his intervention stopped France from taking precipitate action, because they could have taken action. They could have taken out these presidents. They could have invaded the places. They could have done far worse things. But he moved close to France, spends most of his time there, holiday time, to soften that and then, create even better relationship. So France cannot do things they would have done to those countries but for the fact that they were anxious to maintain a good relationship with Nigeria. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because these are all our neighbors. So people must take, have a good level, recognize that he was mediating in a way to cushion what could have been a disaster if it was allowed to happen. Then secondly, you have already said that the roles of Nigerian previous presidents in relation to all the conflicts that we have had in many parts of West Africa has been one in which they get asked, Buhari, Obasanjo spent over $6 billion in Ecowas and then all these Sierra Leone and Liberia. We never got a penny back. It wasn't because Nigeria had territorial. We have no territorial. We don't have any boundary with those. We're not interested. It's just that we were being driven by the quest to have peace in the region. So everything we did in good faith. And they have to be recognized. It cost us a lot of money. Nigeria funds 60% of Ecowas. Of course, we are 60% of the population. But we are funding that many of the countries you are mentioning, they have not actually been paying their dues. But Nigeria didn't care. Nigeria was just the big brother trying to do what they're asked to do in the interest of maintaining peace and stability in the region. And if you're talking about crisis, see what's going on in DR Congo, see Sudan. These are places where is absolute bloodshed, but Nigeria stopped all this from happening in West Africa. So we have enjoyed that period of peace and stability. And this one that happened is just to be fate, it's fate. Because, it was military.
Did you say it's faith?
No. The thing is that there's an element of faith in this because this is military, not civilian. And they have to follow its course. And over time, it will heal over time. And what we are looking at is what pieces are we picking? From 1975, when Ecowas was set up, it was Ecowas of states, government to government, G to G, up until about 2007, because private sector never had a look in. We were just, are you interested? We didn't have a look. It was in 2007 that they revised the treaty. And then it moved from Ecowas of states to Ecowas of people. And then my department was set up, private sector directorate, to actually galvanize the private sector and bring them into the development process. And we started having all these Federation of Chambers of Commerce, Ecowas, Federation of West Africa, Federation of Chamber of Commerce, and then the Manufacturers Association, the Ecowas Bankers Association. We started setting up all these women. So beginning to have this building block to make sure that will affect the policies and all that.
Okay.
And that movement reinforced the protocol on free movement. Because the protocol on free movement says free movement of goods and services and right of establishment and capital. And it's still number one in Africa when you look at other regions. They still haven't been able, they're even thinking about how they can replicate what we have achieved in Ecowas in the other regions of Africa, even within the context of Africa continental free trade. We haven't even come to that. We're only talking about trade in services and trade in goods and all of that. We haven't come to that thing that defines Ecowas, single passport and then free movement. And we are anxious to keep that within even the ones that are broken off. We don't want them to go. So we say, look, whatever you people do on politics over our head, we still want to work as brothers, sell our goods, move things. We still want, because it's all about the common destiny. And then also, one interesting thing happened last month when I went to Cote d'Ivoire for the Serra exhibition. The OECD published a report on regional trade in West Africa. It showed that it's not 12%, it's not 14%. It's actually as high as 38% intra-regional trade. And we never knew that it was that much. The whole of Africa is about 14%. So we're actually more deeply involved in trading between ourselves than actually we give credit to. So where am I going with all of this? Where I'm going with this is that, yes, when we judge our former president, our former chairman of Ecowas, yes, we have to judge him in the context of the situation that he had to handle. Very delicate situation that we didn't want it to erupt into violence. And secondly, he has to respect the mandate given to him and take instructions from his peers. So these are the kind of thing you know, and then also look at how he has handled the diplomacy of keeping the big power away from wielding the big stick. So that is very, very important. So many people are not seeing that. And then also how we are stomaching the idea that we want to still keep this business going. And then why they keep talking and negotiating. So, you know, it doesn't happen overnight because there are far more issues involved, much more fundamental than we can. And a lot of it actually goes to colonial heritage and how long could we go with this colonial heritage and the hemorrhage it's having on our economy. It's part of the thing, and it's nothing else. It's not the making of Ecowas.
Okay, so taking the cue from actually where you landed and where you talked about the 3 countries that pulled away, and then you have some people. Yes, you talked about the you briefly talked about the symbiotic relationship between Nigeria and Niger, and then most people would some other persons argued that negotiation should have been done in closed door and not the way it was done. Like we having, but then having Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso pulling away from and then forming their own association of Sahel state. Would you actually say that with all that has happened, would you actually say that the ECOWAS still has its influence, or has it lost its influence? And is there even a chance for reform? Because most people have actually criticized the fact that, remember, it actually started with Burkina Faso and Mali, and then you now have Niger coming in. So have they lost their influence, or is there still a chance for a reform happening?
There's always a chance that things cannot get back. After all, we are brothers, and that's what the whole treaty. Do you know, if you look at our integration agenda, no other region in Africa comes near how far we have gone. Let me explain. There are 4 stages in regional economic integration. The first stage is called free trade area, which we have been implementing a long time. Now, Africa is now coming to do Africa continental free trade. We've been in this and we've gone far. The higher points of it is when you now have single passport in your region, when you move around freely, and when you have road transit schemes that move. We've gone very far to the optimum in free movement, which we are only starting now in the continent. The second one is common market. We already developed common ECOWAS. We have investment policy, investment code. You know, we have customs union. And our customs union, we've implemented common external tariff in our region. And we have also implemented a single regional regional policy, trade policy. The only thing left in that third agenda is single account for the customs collection, which means if you collect money from all the countries, it all goes into one pot and then it's shared using a formula as you've done in Europe. They were so close to that. Okay, African countries are not even near that where we are. We haven't even had a common external tariff signed in Africa, so we are all working there. Then we have the final one, which is which is the economic union, which is the single currency. We've moved very close because we have implemented the 10 macroeconomic convergence criteria, which requires countries to enter this criteria and stay there within 3 years. Togo has met all that, and we are very close. There will be so many postponements, but we were very close when suddenly France and Cote d'Ivoire torpedoed it. But anyway, we are back again. We have a target of 2027. So you can see that all the 4 major steps to regional integration, we've gone very, very far in those. And what distracts you from making progress is peace and conflict resolution. And that we have put a handle on. And that's what makes ECOWAS region very distinctive, because all the other regions are shedding blood everywhere. They're fighting everywhere. But we have kept that. Now, we now have one thing, which is part of our progress. We had this governance protocol that says we don't want coups, we don't want that, we want to maintain that. So that's political governance. And that was the one that was touched by these three countries moving away. It is not that there was a war between Nigeria and Ghana or a war between Benin and Nigeria. It's not that. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is the higher level of political governance, democracy and cooperative government, which is one that they all agreed on, but there was
at some point
there was a crack. But that also was an issue with Gambia and all that, but it was still sorted out. So that rupture was what created that situation. But the economic base and the three countries don't even contribute up to 10% of Ecowas. Anyway. So we couldn't feel the economic impact.
So it doesn't matter?
No, economic impact means it doesn't stop the economies, because only if Nigeria moves away from Ecowas, with 60% of Ecowas population, the budget is going to be affected, movement of goods will be affected. So it's not that. So these three don't economically distort the region.
Okay, so taking a cue from where you just landed in that regard, sorry I had a button, but then you have the ECOWAS president who, Omar Touhere, who talked about the fact that they have appointed suitable chief negotiator to lead the discussion with the three countries. So if you say that they don't even make so much impact as much as Nigeria does,
their living does not
are you saying we should just let them be?
No, I didn't say that. I said we are doing everything we can to continue as usual, business as usual, which means continue to implement the free protocol on trade.
Okay.
Have we closed our borders? Has any of them shut borders against these three countries? No, we haven't. Because we're still open to trade.
So how possible is this negotiation when they
the negotiations is about political, the higher level of politics. That's where this is not great. But I'm telling you that the bottom line, which is the economy, movement of goods and services, people traveling, that we have not allowed that to be affected. We are passionate. The Ecowas citizens are passionate that we should leave it where it is. So it's a fight between us and our governors, what do you call it, our heads of state. We're saying, no, it's about Ecowas of people. Leave us here. We want to continue to be here. Do you understand what I mean? So it's like a family quarrel. But
family quarrel.
Yeah, quarrel, but with a distinct ingredient, which is interaction of colonial legacy. Because, bear in mind, there are deeper things. They are not living because the way they are being treated in ECOWAS, so they want to, like Mauritania. Mauritania left, but when we started negotiating with Europe, they said, we want to come back for the negotiation with Europe. Economic partnership agreement, they are part of it. But they generally left to join their Sahel nations and then look European. You know what I mean? So it's not that kind of quarrel. So it's not that three countries say, we don't like the way you vote in ECOWAS, we don't like what you are doing, we will leave it. No, there's something deeper than that makes them feel it is time for a change. And then, so what we are doing is that we are picking the pieces and trying to get them say, yeah, if you can, there are certain things you can do, but you don't destroy democracy. Let's try and see how. So tell us when you are now going to come back and do election. It's not a do or die. And then we want to get an agenda of 2 years or 3 years. We want to have an agenda so that we can save our face. But the tempers were so high that they weren't prepared to commit to a finite agenda. So those threats were made, not made by Nigeria. Those threats were made by ECOWAS, heads of state. It wasn't Nigeria that was making the threat.
Okay. Habib Gajo, with all that he stated, I'm sure that at some point I saw you nodding like not in the affirmative part, but then you have some other persons who have argued based on the fact that ECOWAS, or that, okay, looking at the protocol on constitutional change of government, that it should be looked into, because he talked about the political side and then he also talked about the economic side. And most people will say that the ECOWAS is an economic community, and so it has actually have no business interfering in the politics and in the governance of other countries' internal affairs. I had somebody make such argument, and then so they say that the concept of a standby force makes it look as though we're kind of meddling into the internal affairs of other person, because according to them, they feel like, so who will this standby force now? Which part are you now facing, or which part are you now siding if you decide to take the standby force, especially in internal affairs? So what are your thoughts in regards to all of this? And then do you actually think that the commission can still be trusted to be a neutral voice in political transition and regional conflicts?
Yeah, Prof have said it all, quote and unquote. You understand, is the decision of the leadership of the Ecowas member states. You understand, to sanction them. You understand, but sanction does not warrant invention. You understand. Secondly, when you look at the economic aspect, Prof has dig it down to where Nigerians want to hear. You understand? For example, those borders were closed. You understand? Nigerian goods were stocked, and Nigerian goods were also stocked in our borders. You have seen a lot of heavy trucks of loads. You understand? So Benin Republic has to come in to open another border between Sokoto and Benin Kebbi to bypass Niger. You understand? And create a free zone in Kebbi State and Kano State in order for goods to move. You understand? So economically, that hampers that year. Economical activities has been hampered. In the other hand, and when you now take the economic part of it, like the way Prof said, we have a trade understanding and movement of goods and services and relationship from Nigeria to Ivory Coast to Monrovia to Sierra Leone. We understand, by ships, by road, by other means. You understand, like those who are importing cocoa, gold, and cola nut from Ghana in Kumasi, from Abidjan, from Togo, Lomé, Benin Republic, and so on. We have done well in business in Tema, in Ghana, and other communities like Niger, where we have almost one economic system. Is only the language barrier of France and English that differentiate us. You understand? But we speak almost all the languages. In fact, some Nigerians and Benin Republic, Togo speak English more than Nigerians. You understand? Because Nigerians don't speak French. So Nigerian language has become official language in all those countries. You will find where they speak Yoruba, where they speak Igbos, where they speak Hausa, where they speak Fulfulde, and so on. But there is a disturbing issue. I think we shouldn't have put Ghana shouldn't have put a caveat for Nigerian businesses to make a capitalization of over $100,000 before you have a certificate of business, or you open a business companies and factories and other. You understand? It shouldn't have been like that, because in Nigeria is free. You understand? In all member countries in Africa, they will come and do their business here. Nobody disturb them. Nobody say you have to pay so amount, or you need a resident permit and so on. Even Nigeria shouldered the whole of Africa as a father and mother of Africa, based on trade and any other businesses like that. You understand? So ECOWAS need to do something about Ghana to look into where the free business and free economy can be transacted without any hindrances or sanctions and so on and so forth. If you come back to the political aspect of it, which is more controversial, like the way Prof said it, you understand, we only see the political aspect of it than the integration and the security aspect.
Okay.
You understand? Because everybody is looking about the leadership, but those leaders, like I want to say today that when Nigeria was in military government, with our military head of states, we still intervene in other ECOWAS and African countries, enforcing democracy on those countries. During Babangida, during Abacha, and we are still in military government, but we say election must hold in another country. Now we are in a democratic country, a democratic nation, a democratic people. You understand? And somebody will just overturn government, and the next thing Nigeria will do is to the head of ECOWAS, who happened to be a Nigerian president. You understand? Even if ECOWAS speak in one voice, as a leader, you say, no, we need to think in an advanced way.
Prof has said that, sorry, I had a body. Yeah. Prof has said that he was not acting as a Nigerian president. He was acting with regards to the ECOWAS.
I'm glad he's giving this example, because how can you explain to Nigerians that Nigerian government will go and spend $6 billion in trying to resolve issues in Sierra Leone, when we don't have common border, they don't threaten us? How would you explain that? The thing is that it was the instruction of the heads of state. They said, go and help us. Even United Nations Security Council, they all said, go and do it, go and help. And then we hope that they will refund us. They didn't refund anything. And it still didn't stop us from continuing. It's the mandate that they give you. They say, please. The heads of state will beg.
But then you have to follow the mandate, just like they say, your mandate we shall stand. You have to follow the mandate even when it is detrimental.
It's because Nigeria, as he said, has accepted that we say Africa is the centerpiece of Nigerian foreign policy. We see ourselves, we've taken a lot of beating. When during the white South Africa, over 200,000 South Africans were absorbed into Nigeria, put in universities, who funded them. Yes. Just to show Tabo Mbeki, those people, they all schooled here. Then Nigeria even went and shut down the Barclays Bank in South Africa, who nationalized it. Yes. Right. So that was one of the reasons why the American president wrote to Mohammed, you should not do that. He didn't want to send $13.5 million to these people to fight. It's one of the reasons why they killed him, our president. So we have suffered as a country. Because we are trying to be the big brother, do help us, that sort of thing.
And we are still suffering to help our big brothers.
Even in Niger, there are so many families that the border passed through their sitting room.
Yes.
The people on this side, their bedrooms are in Niger.
Their sitting room. If you go to Jigawa State, there is a village near at the border. You understand? It is just a line that cross the gutter or a small thin road. That's the border between Nigeria and Niger. If you go to Kano State, it's also the same thing. There's one place they call Makaria. You understand? It's just like you bought a Coca-Cola in Nigeria with then with your 50 naira or 100 naira, and you just 2 steps ahead, you see another kiosk and say, give me Coca-Cola. They'll say you have to pay in safer. So you see,
Also,
it's
we border with Benin. There are at least 1 million Nigerians that are speaking Yoruba on the other side of the and then when they walk through the border, they don't carry passport. They just go past. They know themselves.
Yeah, my first time
And
going to
60%
Ghana.
of the revenue that Benin gets for their government comes from the trafficking between Nigeria and border.
Yes, my first time going to Ghana, I passed through Seme, Ilakoji, and Aflawo. You understand? I would just show my student ID card. Then I was in the university. I would just show my student ID card. Those immigration and the military would say, pass. Go. You understand? So it's very excellent per se. You understand? It's only this if we accepted democracy. You understand?
What do you mean by we?
We Africans and West Africa and Nigerians, you understand, if we accepted democracy as a form of government, you understand, that we can relate politically and economically and otherwise, like security and so on, in a democratic way. Because the reason why I say that, even when Tinubu issued that threat, well, when Ecowas, sorry, Prof, you corrected me. Even when Ecowas issued that threat, our National Assembly, you understand, sat on that day and said, no, we should not invade Niger. That's a sign of democracy, and the Ecowas, the president and the Ecowas backed down and did not invade Niger. You
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So now there's this public perception that ECOWAS is elite-driven and donor-dependent. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with donor dependent, because ECOWAS is an economic bloc. You understand? Though Prof has said that still Nigeria share the 60%, and some of countries are not paid. You understand? But that does not mean around that ECOWAS is a donor country. No. The operations and the trade balances and so on has no aid or donation from any other Western powers. You understand? The only thing they colonize us, but they can't. They can't they can't force us to do what we don't want to do. Like Prof said, that had it been President Tinubu as chairman of ECOWAS, allowed France, you understand, to do what it did in Guinea, you understand, it will have been a catastrophic ECOWAS today. So that shows that France has no influence whatsoever in our political and economic way in West Africa, though they have their colonies more than the British. You understand?
Okay.
Most of these francophone countries are controlled by France. So if they deviate from France, that does not mean we should now support France. No, we will stop France from invading them, or like what Prof said. So I
All right.
am on that point.
All right. So let's come back to you, Prof. I'd like to ask you 2 questions, and I'd like you to take them in one breath with regards to the new leadership of ECOWAS. Now, what structural reforms are urgently needed in the short term for ECOWAS to function effectively under this new leadership? That's one. And then secondly, you talked about AFCFTA, Africa Free Trade Zone. Now, with this AFCFTA gaining traction, what exactly is or should be ECOWAS' new role in terms of trade integration and economic policy, even though I know that the new Ecowas chairman, the president of Sierra Leone, Julius, stated it as one of his core priorities, where he talked about trade liberalization scheme, regional infrastructure, cross-border value chain, and being an engine for job creation, especially for women and children. What expert advice would you give in this regards as someone who has known the way, goes the way, and shows the way?
Yeah, I think the evidence we have is that ECOWAS has gone substantially far in those 4 stages of regionalization. And Africa Continental Free Trade is actually at the bottom level. And then it gives us an opportunity to still do more, because we can do more. We can and we should do more. And for you to do more, I'm glad that OECD has shown that we're actually doing more than people give us credit for.
The data
shows traditionally was 38% rather than the 12% they kept mentioning. We can still achieve more because, for example, apart from that basic free movement, we also have ECOWAS Trade Liberation Scheme called ETLS. Now, this ETLS, the rule of origin is that you have to have 30% value addition for your goods to qualify for free tariff and free movement. So that's one. So we need to deepen that, because if you give 30% value addition to your goods, you're actually going to remove them from export-import dependency. You see, the import dependency syndrome means that your country will never develop. If all you look at cocoa. Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire produce 72% of world cocoa. But when you look at the value chain of cocoa, including chocolate, you see that we only account for 7% more, which means that if you have added value, you would have earned 4 times or 5 times more.
Added value.
Even adding to 30% value would even give you 3 times more revenue and create all these jobs inside rather than exporting the jobs. And the danger is that when you are import dependent, you are vulnerable to every conceivable global headwind. It doesn't matter whether it is fuel shortage, it doesn't matter whether it is COVID-19, which is health, it doesn't matter whether it's American 2008 property crisis, you are vulnerable. We are vulnerable. Okay, if you take Nigeria, we are producing gas and crude. So why would we be affected by Russia and Ukraine? We have everything they have.
We have no business with them.
But Europe depends on Russia for 40% of their gas. So when Russia started turning down the tap, prices jumped through the roof in Europe. But we are import dependent. We started importing inflation. And it's the same thing with Donald Trump's global trade war. It hasn't hit us yet with his 10%, 14%. No, it hasn't hit us, but we're already taking the hit because we are importing.
So really, we have not scratched the surface yet with all that is happening.
No, we're already taking the hit because the economy is import dependent. So you're importing the consequence of what Donald Trump is doing. So that's the challenge. So how do we now deepen our interregional, because we are trying on the intra-regional. How do we deepen inter? You need to invest more in infrastructure.
Okay.
And infrastructure is not, because within the Lagos Abidjan Transit Corridor and all of that, we need to have rail line there too. We need to connect our rail line to the Maputo corridor, the Lobito corridor, and the Lami corridor, which starts from Mombasa all the way to northern Cameroon. So if we connect those two, they will make a huge difference in shipping transport of ships, because goods from Brazil, Europe, Canada, America comes to our region very, very cheap. The goods from China, India, and Japan comes to Mombasa very, very cheap. But the moment they start going down to South Africa to get to come up and all that, and then do that, they add another $1,000 per container. So we can take that out because we have connected and we open up the entire hinterland. So that's one major thing. Aviation hubs can do more on aviation. We can do more on road. We can do more on exchange, because what Pan-Africa, Pan-Exim Bank has done for Afro-Exim Bank has done
Afro-Exim Bank
is to save us at least $5 billion in costs by saying, okay, if you want something from Ghana, just pay your naira into your account. You know, they will use that. I don't have to go and look for dollar. Just pay straight and then rand. You know, they will sort it out without having to go and look for dollar to send and look for no
CD or
so that would deepen the trade. And I also keep saying that at least 80% of what any country in Africa needs to import can be sourced from Africa somewhere.
Oh.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
Which cars do you want that you cannot get in Morocco or in Nigeria or in South Africa? Which goods? Is it good? Tell me which goods you are importing that you cannot find somewhere in Africa you can buy it from, so that you can keep dollar at bay. And then because dollar costs us at least 20% transaction cost. 10%, if goods are quoted in dollar in China, they are putting it in dollar, they put another 10% because they don't know whether the value will change.
Yeah.
And then you also have the same thing vice versa. So there's a lot of that going on. You know?
Absolutely. All right, even as we begin to round off this segment of the show, I'll come to you, Habib Gajo. What tools specifically are you looking at the new leadership should use in terms of addressing insecurity and terrorism?
Yeah, first of all, they should open a door of negotiating with Niger,
Okay, so
Burkina
since the
Faso,
president said
and
they're already
Mali.
looking at a chief negotiator on that.
Yes, that would help in security aspect. You understand, because most of these terrorists are passing through Burkina Niger border, Chad to enter Nigeria, and the Nigerian forces have repelled them. They will now run to Sahel countries where there is no protection for Nigerian military or air force. You understand? Those who are coming from Libya, what they call Libya, Mali, Chad. You understand? Are coming through our borders and attack us and go back. Some on bikes, some on hillocks. You understand? So that will help, and even those countries, Niger is also have their own terrorists. I think even last 2 weeks they attacked more than 200 people. They killed more than 200 people in Niger. In Burkina is also a business of the day. In what they call it in Mali, the same thing. They attack, they destroy so many things that so. Even those countries, Niger and Burkina and Mali, coming back to the fold of Ecowas will strengthen their security, and it will strengthen all member nation security. You understand? So that we can live in peace and we can stay in peace. Then we can do our business in peace. You understand? That will help. Secondly, on trade part of it, the new leadership has a lot of work to do, like the Prof said. We are picking pieces. You understand? So picking pieces is not an easy thing, or easy job to do. You understand? I hope you understand what it means by picking pieces to bring things together. Is one of the critical role they will look at. Then the expansion. You know, in every regional group you have expansionism. You understand? Like you made mention of Mauritania, and while Morocco was also joining ECOWAS as observer group from North Africa. You understand? So
all right.
is one of the expansionism, so that they can look other way and bring all those countries around ECOWAS, you understand, so that they can monitor the security and check the security and enhance regional and continental trade, which will help us because Prof has expanded it right from Mombasa to Cameroon here. Is more cheaper for us, more cheaper for African countries to look in that to trade in that way than following the other route of South Africa that will cost us a lot of dollars.
Absolutely.
And the influence of dollar need to be reduced by industrializing the continent and the region. You understand? More especially ECOWAS, where we have abundant water to enhance our electricity and distribute it to our factories, our companies, and so on, and residents, and even small and scale medium enterprises will also spring, and trade will be, the life will be easier for us, and business will move on. We will no longer depend. Maybe if we are importing, we will now 70% will now import only 20% that we don't have, not what we will import, what we have, like chocolate, you said, cocoa, we have cocoa and chocolate and biscuit.
All right. I'm so tempted to ask the question with regard, when you talked about the dollar, I'm so tempted to ask the question, so what exactly would now be the part or the role of BRICS rubble when you talk about dollar? But let's just leave that aside. We need to go on a quick break.
BRICS has come to stay.
BRICS has come to stay.
Quickly add something. You know, we have so much in common with ourselves than the things that divide us.
Yes.
Nigeria has Kainji Dam. We give 40% of that power to Niger. And if we are not in good terms, Niger could go and build their own power station over the river Niger before us and drop our water level. Then secondly, we have Lake Chad, that's between Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and we need to pump water in there. And then we have we have so many common things common with us. And then one good news, when all these things were happening, I was asking the military generals of the ECOWAS, and I was asking them what's happening. They said, look, if you can do your politics up there, we are collaborating with them on security. They're giving us information. They're collaborating.
Yes.
And then those many people say, leave us alone. We are trading. We are saying, even they don't bring Sefa, they take Nigerian Naira everywhere around the country. So these guys are moving.
Yes.
The cost of people is real. Just as the collaboration on transnational insecurity, they are still working. So it's the politicians up there that are talking politics. You know what I mean?
Yes. You know, to add to what Prof said, even Akosombo Dam in Ghana, Nigeria contributed almost 40% of the development of that dam.
All right, so gentlemen, we need to go on a quick break, and then when we return, before I go on this break, in one word, Prof, what exactly would a successful ECOWAS look like under the new leadership, President Julius Maada Bio?
I want to see a greater movement and traction on the entire regional integration agenda.
Okay.
Because the end justifies the means.
The end justifies the means. Habib Gajo, one word.
Yeah, like you said, the end justified the means.
Okay.
You know, ECOWAS, Sierra Leone is one of the beneficiaries of ECOWAS. You understand? So let them move, and the end will find the means.
Let's leave it at the end justifies the means. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll change this conversation and talk something different on tax reforms. See you later.
Introducing Athena's suite of publications by the Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, a not-for-profit, non-partisan think tank operating at the junction of theory and practice. Athena Notes, brings you timely from top academics and journalists. Athena Perspectives keeps you connected with the latest trends and developments in Nigeria and the West African sub-region. Policy Pulse delivers monthly analysis of policy trends with Athena Governance Insights. Dive deep into national challenges and policy solutions through data-driven research. Athena Third Tier spotlights local governance at the grassroots level and offering solutions to improve outcomes at the grassroots level. Subscribe to Athena Center for Policy and Leadership today.
If you just joined us, this is Athena Voices, and we are reaching you live from Athena Center for Policy and Leadership, brought to you by Clear Path Media. All right, if you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation as we're still talking. We actually talked about the Ecowas at Crossroads, but now we're moving to a different topic for today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has signed the much anticipated Tax Reforms Act, promising efficiency, broader compliance, and improved revenue for all. But behind the optimism lies friction. The act stirred, or when it was a bill, it actually stirred quite a number of tension, especially in the National Assembly, and some states that rejected the so-called sin taxes like alcohol are now lining up to share in the revenue. Now, is this reform the game changer that Nigeria needs, or is it just another elite and gingered or engineered compromise? My guests are still in the studio. Professor Ken Ife, who is Chief Economic Strategist at Ecowas Commission, and we also have Habib Gaju, who is a Bureau of the Change Operator and Policy Analyst. Okay, so before we go straight, let me come to you, Prof. Now, with this new Tax Reforms Act, we recall how much it created quite a number of tension at the time. The National Assembly were screaming, the rooftop, the governors were screaming, and then we kept asking, okay, so what exactly was the reason for that tension at the time? And then we also remembered during the VAT, where you had some governors come to argue with regards to the fact that, oh, okay, you call the VAT or the tax coming from other states, coming from alcohol or liquor, you call them haram, but then you want part of that money. So now, in all of this, what exactly is the core objective? First, two questions, and I'd like you to take them together. What exactly is the core objective of this new Tax Reform Act? How different is it from other tax policies? And have we actually, dropped, or has that issue been addressed with this new Tax Reforms Act?
Yeah. See, we have a tax system that is anachronistic. We had something that is so antiquated that predated our independence. And what you have here are four contradictions that is part of the baggage of that old tax. One is that Nigeria has 42 million MSMEs out of 90 million in Africa. And that is 48%. But Nigeria's population in Africa is about 8%, 6, 7, 8%. The lowest in Africa. But when you come to implicit tax, which is the real tax the businesses pay, and there are 42 million of them, their tax, Nigerian implicit tax, is the highest in Africa. Because if you want electricity, you pay for it. Businesses pay for their own electricity 77% of the time. That's the research of Manufacturers Action Group. Go to their website. If you want water, you dig your borehole, you put your pump. You pay for it. If you want access road, you pay for it. You do it yourself. To the point that the big boys are now using their tax to build roads.
Buy transformer.
Do you understand? So that is the whole issue, that the businesses are they are going bankrupt under the yoke of all of these imperfections. But yet, we also have the fact that our tax law was overtaxing the golden goose, because you are taxing poverty, you are taxing capital expenditure, you are taxing investment. So you're actually killing the golden goose that lays the egg. So the question is, what do? We needed a progressive taxation that connects to the people, connects to the MSMEs, creates what you call a clement enabling environment for people who want to invest in your country to come, to plug the holes. I tell you what, I'll tell you about the hole. We used to have almost 50% of government revenue is given away as tax waivers, as tax concession. The law blocked it. Remove that discretion.
Okay.
If you want to do it in your state, go to state assembly. If the president wants to go to National Assembly. So they blocked those discretion. And then you also have these tax collectors and agents that are imposing tax. The discretion, they tell you what to pay. You pay. If you don't pay, they block your goods, they seize your things. We have 60 tax categories, 60. Only 6 of them gives us 90% of our revenue. So what the hell are you doing with the other 55, 54? They're all rated, they're blocking businesses, extortion on business.
Extortion.
And then giving them so much regulatory burden. So these are the things that it unlocked. And then let me address the one, because it creates more employment. But I have to tell you how. And then it creates growth in the economy. And I have to tell you why. There are 4 things in the construct for GDP. Household consumption, 74 to 78% of GDP. Investment by companies, then government consumption is only 5 to 7% of the GDP. Then you have balance of payment. With your subsidy moving away, you are going away from negative balance of payment to positive $6.8 billion. So that is positive. Now, the tax went and removed all the taxes from citizens. Tax on health, services, on education, on food, all of that. So you're actually allowing them to have more disposable income at their disposal.
Okay.
Rather than use it to pay for all of those VAT here and there. And with that, they can buy more products. So aggregate consumption goes up, GDP goes up with it. Now the companies, you went to companies, just 42 million, say don't bother about tax returns and all this thing on VAT, unless your turnover hits above no longer 25 million, but 50 million. You're actually conserving more cash for them. So they stop making workers redundant. They can employ more workers, they can produce more, they can invest more. Aggregate output goes up, GDP goes up. Government is already a consumer, it's always borrowing money to spend and everything. So all the parameters, the pillars are all pointing upwards because of the tax regime. So you're going to see more growth in the economy, and that will force down inflation. That will bring a lot of things.
It will force down inflation?
No, you will see the effect. And it's this kind of tax regime that could encourage the likes of Dangote and private sector to have confidence and put this kind of money, 1.7 trillion, on softening the. So you've got all that. It goes to companies and says to companies, I'm going to reduce your tax from 30% CIT, that is companies income tax, to 25%, the following year to 20%. That is music to the ears of investors. They want to come. And then, in fact, what is even more important to investors, that you now they can plan well. Because when people are preparing their plan to invest in Nigeria, they don't know what to put on tax, because they can be hit by all kinds of things, it's uncertain. So now there's certainty on what the tax regime is. And then he went to even the individuals, say, look, remove this, this tax they give to you when people die.
Levy.
No, I don't remember what they call it. It's just the generational thing. If parents die, then you go and tax them.
Okay, inheritance tax.
Inheritance
is about throwing it away. And then you also have the thing that people like the military remove tax from the military. They're not agriculture, agri-producers will remove tax from those, so that that sector will get breathed. So it is revolutionary, and it will do more good to the economy.
Okay, I actually like the enthusiasm with which Prof talks about this tax. It means that it looks like a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, this tax. But then that question I asked him, I'll come back to you with it. Why exactly did that? I'm curious to know. I'm sure a lot of my viewers are curious to know why exactly did that? Why did the bill at the time? Why did it create so much tension at the National Assembly? What exactly were the major points of resistance and concerns? That's one. And then secondly, Prof talked about the multiplicity of taxes. I remember most friend of mine will come and tell me, especially those who have businesses, okay, I just woke up this morning and NAFDAC was at my door. And by the time I finished sorting out NAFDAC, another AECD comes on board. And when I'm done with that one, another tax force comes again. And then they are just taxing one. It's just almost looking like one and the same thing. So in all of this, I hear Prof says that there's definitely light at the end of this tunnel. But are you also seeing that this will sort or take off those multiple taxes?
Yeah, with time, like what Prof said, and your question, let me first respond to your question when you said the tension during the laydown of the bill in the National Assembly, sponsored by the president himself, created a lot of tension. It has become the one he laid first is too aggressive to all the stakeholders in Nigeria, including individuals, because at that time when he laid it down, even individual profit tax and even savings savings account are going to be taxed. You know, all the taxes, multiple taxation is inside the bill. You understand? But later, when there is apprehension by Nigerians that, oh, we didn't trust this bill, you know, here and there, the state governors also now brought their own concern of the distribution, the consumption of it. You understand? How you can't consume
alcohol.
No, I'm not going to say alcohol. You can't tubers of yams in Benue State. You understand? And somebody somewhere in another state will now get the profit because it has been produced in that place. You understand? So the tax consumption is supposed to be the profit of that location. You understand? Not where you establish your business. You understand? It's just like all these multinational corporations who are based in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ogun State, and so on. You understand? And you now consume. Maybe you buy data or airtime with this telecommunication. You are from Enugu, from Kano, from other, where there is a lot of consumption. And you say, oh no, because the company is in Lagos, so let everything go to Lagos. You understand? So that creates a tension. It has been seen as an aggression to.
All right.
You understand? So,
all right, so
later.
Is it going to impact on the multiplicity of tax? Today you have FIRS, tomorrow you have IRS, next tomorrow it is states tax force. More like giving jobs for the boys. Yes. That's what some people see it as.
No, you see, that one is an establishment. I haven't finished with the consumption of the profit. So the states, the president now thought of it, or he has been advised, no, you have to look at these holes, you need to block them. You understand? He now created a committee, consolidated committee, to go around Nigeria, you understand, to hear from people, and that went successfully, and people voiced out their anger in the bill he presented. He now changed it, you understand, consolidated it, modified it, and presented it back to the National Assembly. And that's how Nigerians accepted, even when they passed it and no tension. He signed the bill, no tension.
The years had it.
Yes, you understand. So we had it, but like the way Prof, tax is not something that you will see today. You understand? It's not you have done it this year, you will see it this year. It's a long-term process, and it's a long-term investment. You understand? Government will keep borrowing, but if our own tax will trickle down to us, for example, Dangote is at Obajana in Apapa Port, and the road was bad, the trucks are falling down, and then he now saying, okay, now give me tax exemption, then I will do 20-kilometer road, you understand, from my factory out of the place, then you now give him a tax waiver, he build the road, you understand? So these are the things that we need to look out, you understand, so that it will ring the bell from investors who want to invest in Nigeria and those who want to come and invest in Nigeria, that they have confidence, you understand, that they are not going to, there is not going to be a multiple taxation. For example, let me give you a multiple the effect of multiple taxation. Now, you have a load or a goods coming from Lagos. It enter Ogun State. Ogun State will take. Local government will take up to the last destination. Like in FCT here, you understand, a taximan or dispatch bike and so on, or those who are selling along the street, and you understand. So AMAC will come, environmental will come, this one will come, and they will all collect
one and the same thing.
One at the same.
It looks like tomato.
You understand? On daily basis. You understand? They are now even stopping SUVs. They're not stopping cars. You understand? Are you Uber or are you Bolt? You understand? Somebody stopped me in my car. I said, "Are you Bolt?" I said, "Do I look like a Bolt? Have you registered my car in Bolt or what?" You understand? That's multiple taxation. Now, when we come to the establishment, you understand, Nigerian National Revenue Service, not Inland Revenue Service. So all the taxes are being consolidated in one single establishment or one single account, like you understand. So in a year or in a quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, the federal revenue service will now tell us this is what comes from custom, this is what comes from, you understand. Unlike before, NIMASA will just hand over, this way will hand over.
All right.
The corporate banks will hand over somewhere. The federal inland revenue will now say, no, this is only 18 trillion we got. You understand? Custom will be given target. Target is no longer viable again. So the consolidation of those taxes, I commend the president for consolidating them and putting them in one establishment. That's a future the future Nigerian economy will strive to the level that nobody will extort anybody. You understand?
All
and
right.
if you pay your tax with your own self, you now my tax. This is my
team.
yes, you don't need to go to Federal Inland Revenue applying for tax clearance. This one, or they will wait for a year. A bank will wait for a year to wait and call or block your account, your company account, and say we need your tax return.
All
we
right.
need this, that. So these are, honestly, I commend the president on that.
All right.
But where we have issue, Prof, the state and the local government, the area of multiple taxations. So something has to be done in states so that they can do as the same, so that we have one single tax base in Nigeria.
All right. So, okay, wanted to round off.
I wanted to say that there is public distrust of government.
Absolutely.
And it is that distrust that was compounded, and that's why people don't want to pay tax, because they distrust, they have that trust deficit. And what compounded the trust deficit was inadequate consultation. Now, if you remember, in 2012, I was the UK DFID trade advisor to Nigerian government, and my job was to husband Nigeria's accession to the WTO trade facilitation agreement. So when I took up that job, I had to get 46 agencies involved in trade, and then all the development partners around the table. So every month we'll meet to talk, and it became capacity building. And we'll bring the WTO text, we'll discuss it all, everybody. So, and then we'll go together to the seaports to see for ourselves, go to the semi-border to see what is going on there, go to the airport. So we were going around, and then desensitization in the geopolitical zone. So they were all involved. So when they signed the thing, nobody even knew. But when we were doing AFTA, they did come and say America won that, but we said no. It took 1 year for them to go around and tell people what is going on. It's the same thing that came to this one. They said they met some governors, but it is the governor. They didn't know, they couldn't say how many, and so they started suspicion. But nobody trusts government.
Yes.
And then actually, when you look at the thing, the aggregate is federal government takes 15% for collecting the taxes. For example, the VAT. Then the 50% goes to state governments, and then 35% goes to
consumers,
to the local government. Okay, that is how they apportion the thing. And then federal government say, okay, look, my 15%, just give 5% to this government.
To the population.
Reduce it to 10. But then the state grab that, so it becomes 55%. And the local government, 35%. Now, within the state itself, the VAT within the state, share within the states, the formula for sharing it became a bone of contention. One is equality. Share, get an amount, 50% of it, and share it equally among the states. That was okay because we like sharing. So that was kept there. Then there is the other one, which is based on population. So the population one, and then the remaining one is a derivation, where it is derived from.
Yes.
Now the committee wanted to help those states that are the ones generating the VAT, and so wanted to shift it to the ones and then they were expecting Lagos to complain. But it is the people who wanted to shift it to that were complaining.
All right.
So that was eventually sorted out, and it was giving 30% and population giving 20%.
And that was perfect.
All right. Yeah. Gentlemen, we need to round off quite a number of things that we need to discuss, because I was even going to ask exactly, Prof, in one word, Prof, what could actually make or break the success of this reform in the next 12 to 24 months? One word, Prof.
First of all, you have 6 months interval. There will always be a reasonable interval between enactment and going into force. They should use these 6 months to sensitize every stakeholder.
Sensitization.
If you don't sensitize them, in January 1st, trouble will begin. People are still going to be fighting because they don't know what they're fighting for. They don't know. There'll be resistance and the lack of clarity. Secondly, what is critical about, you said one word. I think that's one. No,
Sensitization.
The second one is implementation.
Okay.
The devil is always on the implementation. And I have had several TV interviews when they put this question to me. How are we sure that they are going to approve? I say, look. This law is about collecting taxes. It doesn't actually deal with how money that comes to government is going to be spent. There's a different law that deals with it, and that's called Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007. That is the one that deals with fiscal strategy paper, medium-term expenditure framework, budgeting process, then borrowing money, what you borrow for, what you don't borrow for, what is that, tax administration. All of that is in a different.
All right, thank you, Prof. You said sensitization and implementation. So for you, same thing.
Sensitization, implementation, and sustainability.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Professor Ken Ife, Chief Economic Strategist at Ecowas Commission. It is always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you,
Professor Ken. Thank you so much, Habib Gajo, Bureau the Change Operator and Policy and Economics. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I always have good time talking to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right, viewers, that's where we end this conversation for today. It has been a long day, and I'm sure you must have rightly been entertained, educated, and informed. See you again next time. Do remember to subscribe to all of our social media portal and leave us your comments. And also, leave your notifications on so that you would always know when we are live. I'll see you again next time. My name is Annabelle Oji. Good evening.